Marco D'Amico broke the Noah Dobson to Montreal trade. Obviously, picked 16 and 17, and Emil Heineman go the other way. And
Yep.
as it got down to it, right? How many teams would you say before it got down to the nitty gritty? How many teams would you say were legitimately in on the Noah Dobson discussion? And when did it really get serious that he didn't have a future in Long Island?
On Long Island, or else all of my friends are coming for you. I learned.
What did I say?
I've been.
What,
You
what,
said
sorry,
in
what did
Long Island. You said in
so
Long
on
Island.
Long Island, yeah.
Watch out! All
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Long Island's gonna come for you like they came for me. So basically, what I was told was he was made available earlier in the week, like
Okay.
3-4 days before the draft, and teams started calling and poking around. But the three most serious teams were the Montreal Canadiens, Columbus Blue Jackets, and the St. Louis Blues. And the Blues had kicked tires on the idea of like a Kyrou for Dobson kind of swap, like they had spoken to Buffalo about with JJ Peterka.
Yeah.
But when it came out that, his camp would only really sign an extension of value with an Eastern Conference team, well, that kind of slided them out. And at the time, the Canadiens had made an inferior offer to the one that the Islanders had accepted. So when Kent Hughes got wind that the interest was mutual, they were a little bit more aggressive in their offer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, that's where you went from, I initially had reported that 1 first-round pick was involved, and then they boosted it up to 2. I will stress, however, that David Reinbacher was never part of these discussions in a serious manner.
I find that so hard to believe because
No. You could ask for David Reinbacher.
Oh, sure. You can ask whoever you can ask for.
But the
Demidov
Canadiens
if you want.
And the Canadiens were just like, nah.
Yeah.
And so the reason for that,
but that's the fascinating part to me. Why wouldn't Darsh? I mean, listen, no disrespect to Emil Heineman. He's a real NHL body. He's a real NHL player, but like it's almost reminiscent. Like pick a lane, New York Islanders. I thought you're trying to build this bad boy back up again. I was honestly,
it's a retool.
I don't get shocked. I was shocked that he wasn't in the deal, Mailloux or Reinbacher.
Yeah, and I was told that it simply just wasn't in the cards. The Canadiens had a take or leave it offer kind of thing, and there was a stare down kind of situation.
Oh, wow.
And Columbus wasn't stepping up to better the offer. I think they were offering like 14th overall and a Voronkov, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And the Islanders, I believe, were pushing for the 20th overall pick to be included in that package. Columbus was not having it because they wanted to get, I think they really liked Andreanov, and so they really wanted to make sure that he was still there to get him.
Yeah.
So they were not of it. And at the same time, the Canadiens kind of stood firm. And as news started to trickle down about who could potentially slide down to 16 and 17, I think Darsh kind of, took the offer in the end after some delay. I heard about 16, 17 and Emil Heineman at 2:00 in the morning Eastern time, 11 p.m. Pacific time, in the middle of a bar next to James Hagen's family, right next to me.
No kidding.
Yeah. So it was a little ironic because I kind of felt bad because I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to get their hopes up that they were going to be able to trade up to get James Hagens, which was the initial point of that trade, ladies and gentlemen, was to take those 2 picks and add and trade up.
Right.
And so unfortunately, the teams that they were talking to about trading up were like, nah, our guy is here, kick rocks. And that happened with Utah. That happened with Nashville.
Yeah.
That happened with Boston.
Well, can I take quickly? I was Friday before the deal gets announced formally. I'm playing golf as I like to do on a summer day in Montreal on a Friday. And former Hab, I'm cool. I could say this. Paul Byron is on the deck of the golf club, and he looks at his phone and says, "Holy, we just got him." And everyone's around like, what's going on? I don't know Paul Byron that well. He knows me. We've seen each other. We're cordial. And he goes, Gallagher just texted me. We got Dobson. Like everybody on the veranda was going bonkers. Everybody was going bonkers because of the fact that I think if you're of a certain age, and I am of a certain age, that you don't have experience with a star player at 25 years of age putting his hand up and saying Montreal, like, Are the Canadiens? I'm not here to ask you, are they done rebuilding? But are they now team building? There's a difference in my mind. Like, rebuilding is you're retooling, you're setting pieces on the chessboard up, and you're trying to build it up. I think the Canadiens have put the pieces on the board, and now they're trying to build a team. That's my read in the aftermath of the Dobson transaction. So they're somewhere past the rebuild, not done with the rebuild. What about this team building phase? What does Dobson do to the Canadiens' compete level?
I think that at the end of the day, when you look at, what the Canadiens are trying to build, you look at a lot of teams right now, they're trading insane packages for players of the same ilk.
Right.
Like, we talk about some of these trades. Like, do you remember how much Seth Jones went for when Chicago traded for him from Columbus? Yeah. This is nothing near, and they're to me, they were on the same level at the same time.
Why I'm shocked, bro. I'm shocked.
And so this goes into the mythos that I was talking about right place, right time with the right amount of assets. This is it. These are trades. This is why I say don't force it. This is why I say you don't overpay for a need until that need is the last need you need. I'm going to stop saying need until you get to a point of contention, right? So, like, if the Habs need a 2C, then you better hope that the rest of that lineup is ready to go, because they're gonna have to give up pieces that you're not going to be happy that they gave up. So, at least with the Noah Dobson trade, I think many, I know obviously some draft enthusiasts were a little bummed, but I think many people were just kind of like, let's go. And I think, everybody that kind of looks at it that way is the same. When you talk from a roster building perspective, the benefits are plentiful. You have a new offensive weapon from the back end with an actual shot that could bomb it, from the back end. So that diversifies the offense that that your defenseman can give, because for how good Lane Hudson has been so far, his shot has been his main weakness in terms of being able to generate offense. I'm not saying he can't improve it. I'm sure that's what he's doing right now. But all I'm saying is Noah Dobson's shot is elite, and it's a right shot, right? So, like, those are a little harder to, you have to factor in, like, when you're going, especially if the puck is going left to right, the way that a goalie stabilizes and then positions themselves changes. And so by having that, it really makes things a little different in terms of attack and how you plan for it and how you could position for it. But at the same time, that's just, 5-on-5 power play. You have two different weapons now. You can put him and Hudson on different waves and see how that goes as well. And ultimately, for me, this also buys the Canadiens time with David Reinbacher.
Amen.
And I think, and when you say, like, I don't understand why he wasn't included in the trade, I think that was one of the main reasons was we're going to get Dobson, and then that's going to allow Reinbacher more time to develop and get reps in Laval, and then, probably get games into Montreal this season so that he is a consistent member of the team by 26-27. And I think at that point, he'd be an above replacement NHL player that could potentially, slot into your top four before the end of that season. And then you're flying, right? And so that's the vision with a Reinbacher. And then you also have Logan Mailloux in the mix, right? So with Mailloux, it really, accentuates the process. But to me, when you get a number one right shot defenseman, it changes the dynamic of your team from top to bottom, because you don't have to go out and get that anymore for the next 8 years. You don't even have to think about it. So it doesn't matter if David Reinbacher is going to be a number two defenseman. If he's a number two or number three defenseman playing behind Dobson, the Canadiens do not have a problem now with that. So their future top four is basically locked in with Hudson, Gooley, Dobson, Reinbacher, and the rest is noise. The rest are pieces that you can add. If you want to keep Reinbacher, if you want to keep Jack Guy, you want to trade Jack Guy, we could have 70,000 episodes between now and the next 3 or 4 years about this. That's a great, fun debate to be had. And who could fit on, what's the future of Alex Carrier? Can they sign him long-term and be a third pair defenseman? Like, there are so many things that change, but when you solidify your defense like that,
oh my gosh, so much of the hard work is done.
And now you don't really have to look to improve your defense or bolster your defense until you're ready to contend. And that's when you start putting picks and prospects on the table for premium third pair defensemen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But until then, the focus now turns to improving the top six, 10,000 miles an hour. And I think that's where the Canadiens are at right now, is they've shifted from our defense is done.
Yeah.
They'll probably sign Lane Hudson soon enough. And for those that are worried that, well, if Dobson got 9.5, well, Hudson's going to get 10 plus.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. One was going to be a free agent, within the next year. The other one is, 5 years off, 6 years off, actually. So it's going to create a little bit of a different negotiation dynamic.
Let me ask one word. Did the Canadiens steal Noah Dobson from the New York Islanders? Is it a steal? Yes or no?
Like getting. No, I'm not going to say yes or no. I don't like getting into like extreme calls like that. I don't want to say.
Just
but
I'm trying to get one answer out of you to flip it into another question. And my other question to you is,
I think it's really, really good value. And if they hadn't drafted Victor Eklund and Kashan Aitchison, I would have called it a steal.
Okay, because I wanted to. There was part of my brain that thought, okay, they're going to take 16 and 17 and they're going to flip it. They're going to get 2 picks inside the top 5. That's why I'm like
Higgins. If they have gotten Higgins, it would have been just as fair. But my 2 cents, from what I've heard, Victor Eklund plus Kashan Aitchison is a better value than just James Higgins.
And that's why I think the New York Islanders come out maybe as one of the biggest winners of this draft from the weekend.
I think beside themselves, I think like in spite of what their initial goal was, they walked out looking far better than they did when the trade was first announced.
Agreed. I agree on that. That's Marco D'Amico. Follow him at MN D'Amico with RG Media.